C10 Talk, episode 140. Korry Hogan, one of the fastest dudes ever to ride a motorcycle. 255 miles an hour.
The doctor, they roll me in on a gurney, and I don't have my top leathers on. And he's like, well, you were in a motorcycle accident. Did you get hit by a car? And I was like, no, I was at the drag strip, and I blew off my bike. And he's like, well, how fast were you going? And I was like, oh, bro, I was going like way over 200. And he looked at me like I'd lost my mind. And he's like, sure you were. I was like, oh, really? The guys got there. I went through at 246 that time. Walked away from it, basically. I have a tramp stamp. That's it. Just a little bit of road rash.
Damn, son. C10 Nation, are you looking to upgrade your power plant? Are you thinking about going with an LS or an LT-based motor? If you are, PSI Conversions is your go-to for your wiring harness needs. psiconversions.com/C10 Talk. When you need weather stripping for your C10, don't settle for just any brand. Seal your build right and make sure you request the best. Ask for precision replacement parts from your C10 parts supplier. Demand quality, demand precision. When it comes to upgrading your truck's gauges, look no further than Dakota Digital and their wide selection of direct fit instrument systems. Hit up dakotadigital.com for more information. If you're looking for aftermarket parts for your C10 truck, Pro Performance is your go-to source. They carry the top brands for wheels, brakes, suspension, and accessories. Check them out on the web at azproperformance.com. That's azproperformance.com.
Welcome to C10 Talk, your C10 Truck podcast. Here's your host, Ronnie Welch.
All right. What up, C10 Nation? A little Korry Hogan. Dude's crazy. One thing I love about this pod is I don't really know Korry. Didn't know him. And just through Instagram and a few people, GSI guys know him. Was like, dude, I gotta reach out to this guy, and do yourself a favor. Go to YouTube and just put in Korry Hogan. Korry Hogan, Hogan. Korry Hogan. Enjoy the show because the dude goes fast. He's obviously got he's got a little adrenaline thing going. He loves to cruise that motorcycle. Good dude, well spoken. Had a blast. One of those things when you interview guys and they reach back out to you, like, was it good? And it's like, dude, I was just loving it. I mean, I'm listening just like you guys will. Just kind of enjoying the story, the journey, and everything that Korry's going to bring to C10 Talk and the C10 Nation. He's got one rad-ass truck, I'll tell you that. A few shows to get out of the way. Well, speaking of shows, Metalox and C10 Vatos, you guys are digging that one. Episode 138 and 139. Keep listening if you haven't checked it out. Go back. Metalox, Kyle. Kyle and I have been working a lot together on Orange Slice and getting that thing going. Got a little YouTube videos that I've been working on as well, so you can check out some of the YouTube videos. That is something that I've really wanted to do. It's one of those things where it's so easy not to and just go about your day. But I figured with Orange Slice, we got to make that happen. So YouTube got 2 videos out, and they're not long. I mean, just kind of follow along with the build and the process. Now, I will say that a lot of people with Kyle, Metalox, and the content, they want more from Kyle. They want videos, they want how-tos, they want instructions. I don't think I'm letting it out of the bag yet, but it's going to happen. So you're going to see some videos from Kyle, how-tos. So be patient. He's going to work on it. He's got a baby coming like any day. But I envision a few different trucks getting up there and getting cut and some detailed how-tos from that, from that, so you guys can pick them up, buy them, and learn how to cut your bedsides. So those 2 episodes are doing really good. Metalox and the Vatos, 138, 139. Check them out. Some shows. Brothers Truck Show is going to be July 7th. We usually cruise over there, run to Brothers. Now, I'm going to be out of town, so I'm not going. But there's some fellows from Arizona. So if you're from AZ, if you're from Cali, Eastern Cali, I know some guys come up from Tucson. If you want to roll for the Run to Brothers, get a hold of AZ High Test, which is Jason or Cagoose. They're going to put that together and leave Saturday morning, just the same, Saturday, July 6th, roll out, and then get back. So Run to Brothers, it's going to happen. July 6th, that morning, they'll roll out and then hit the show on the 7th and then come back. So July 7th, Brothers' 21st annual show and shine. That's at Oak Canyon RV in Silverado, California. July 13th, SCTN, which is the Southeastern Truck Nationals. Brian Ashley, the C10 deputy, and C10 Club Tennessee puts that on. That's the biggest C10 gathering and show east of the Mississippi. 9th annual Southeastern Truck Nationals. We do a couple awards, best of show there and best 67 to 72. So Brian's nothing but support for C10 Talk, and we love to be involved with that. One of these days, Brian, I'll get out there, I promise you. August 10th, I've got 2 shows down. I've got the Capitol, C10's at the Capitol, which is up in Olympia, Washington. And then, so if you're in that Pacific Northwest, hit up Todd or Jen Manchester and let them know you want to come up to the show. August 10th in Olympia, Washington. Another one on August 10th is going to be Southeastern Squares. They're going to have their show out in Georgia, so check that out. YouTube, I talked a little bit about Orange Slice. Check those out and let me know. I did get a voicemail, the little voicemail on the C10 Nation home screen from Anne Marie and Little Harper. So that is pretty rad. Thank you, Miss Anne Marie and Little Harper, for doing that. I'm going to play that right now.
We love C10 Nation in Omaha, Nebraska.
See what I mean? How cute is that? Thank you guys for doing that. New shirts. We got the new C10 Summer shirt. I know it's got K10s on it, but it just didn't sound as good to do K10 Summer, and C10 Summer just rolled off the tongue. So C10 Summer is probably one of the raddest shirts we've ever done. Check it out. It is a black shirt with some cool, funky, fresh neon colors in there. And then the Freedom Warrior, which is Big Fish's Spirit of 76. I thought we'd do something for 4th of July. So get those now. They're in stock and they are shipping right now. If you want the new shirts, hit it up, c10nation.com. C10 Summer, rad shirt. And then the Freedom Warrior, which is Big Fish's Spirit of 76, Spirit of the Nation. Also rad, kind of looking for that 80s style iron-on. It's some killer art. Casey Harris did a great job as always. So check out our shirts. They're soft and they're stylish. So if you want to get those before the 4th or get them for the summer, hit it up, c10nation.com. What else? C10's in the park around the corner, so obviously I got to get ready for that. C10's intervention, and then C10's in the park. We're getting ready to take Orange Slice on a little tour there. What I am thinking about doing for that is we're going to hit up AccuAir, CPP, Brothers, possibly Vintage Air, and Marquet on my little trek. So 2 to 3 week trek from C10 intervention up Northern California, working my way down back through AZ, and then over to Texas. So it's going to be a busy few weeks for us. I got to get the truck done. Full Ride Tech, Dakota Digital, US Mags, got the Pro Performance Revelators, tons coming. Check out the YouTube if you want to see that. So with everything going on with Orange Slice, I got some news. I'm going to sell a couple trucks. So if you guys are interested, or you know somebody who might be interested in Yellowstone. Yes, Yellowstone. When I went out to Texas for LST, I did kind of put a teaser out there that I was selling it. In my mind, I thought, hey, if somebody from Texas really wants it, then they don't have to pay for the shipping to get it out there, so on and so forth. It's not going to be the easiest truck to move because it has that monstrosity of a home on the back. Whoever buys Yellowstone, they can have the option of the big camper, which is Yellowstone. They can have the option of Yellowstone Light, or they can just have no camper. It's up to them. But big camper, little camper, and canoe all come with the package deal. Yellowstone, 1973 crew cab. I mean, it's a peach. No rust. Interior's been redone. Everything's been redone. 454, 4080 now. Holly Terminator. So if you think you might want it, let me know. Ronnie at C10 Talk. Ronnie at C10 Talk. And I will probably put some stuff on my webpage. I just haven't got it up there yet. But Yellowstone's for sale. And then the 1978 long bed C20 Scottsdale, the grandpa truck, that is also for sale. That truck is mint. I mean, 57,000 original miles. The thing is so cherry. So if you know anybody looking for a C20 Scottsdale, so a long bed Scottsdale with a camper, then hit me up. Yellowstone, hit me up. I got a few more that I got to move down the road too. Got a lot of trucks out there. So some of the guys here locally are going to take them, but if not, and you want them, then let's work it out. C10 Talk Sales, I guess, over here. I don't know why my voice is doing that, but it's driving me nuts. So Yellowstone, the grandpa truck, 3 months from now, C10's in the park. Dude, believe it or not, I looked at it 5 months in the get down. 9th annual get down. It's going to be crazy. That's it, you guys. Korry Hogan, good dude, rad dude. Enjoyed sitting down and talking to him. Tons of fun. Hope you guys are liking the videos, the pod. Here we go. Remember, please share the pod, rate the pod. Your sister, your brother, your cousin, your mother, and mama. I don't care. Let's keep it going. Keep it cranking. Thanks for your support. Have a great weekend. I'll be back, I think, one more episode before 4th of July, July 2nd. One more, and I'll drop that and then take a little break. So, all right, guys. Have a good week. Late. All right. C10 Nation. This is an easy one. He might act like he's got a boring life, but I'll tell you what, he does not. I think he might be the fastest man on two wheels. Korry Hogan, Colorado, Golden, Colorado. That's right. Coors Light. Welcome to C10 Talk and the C10 Nation, my brother.
Hey, thanks for the invite, Ronnie.
So tell us about who Korry Hogan is, man. I mean, so let's just say, the Insta world we live in, they might know you as the bare metal truck guy with the small back window. They might know you as somebody who's crazy and races motorcycles, but did you grow up in Colorado? Who is Korry Hogan?
I did. Born and raised in Colorado, right here in Golden, right a couple blocks outside of that. Spent 20 years of my life racing top fuel motorcycles. It went well. It didn't go well. Retired from that after the third 200-mile-an-hour crash and decided to build one of my dreams of an old C10 truck. So that's how we got to this point.
Yeah. Well, you went from all the way to current. So Golden, Colorado, I also believe that's where the Colorado School of Mines is. Is that correct?
Yep. School of Mines is right outside of Coors. I'm about a mile and a half from Coors, so we were kind of weaned on it as children. That's what you drank, Coors Light. I've grown up a little bit. I drank Coors Original these days.
How did you, now growing up there, how big is Golden?
Oh, not very. I mean, there's probably 40,000 people. I mean, it's not huge by any means, but the biggest business in town is definitely Coors. I mean, the entire town runs off of it. So
now
I'm a mile away and have a couple acres right here in Golden, and it's a pretty good place to live. And everybody seems to be moving here as quickly as they possibly can. So
yeah, I kind of wonder where they're coming from because feels like they're kind of moving here too. So tell us about. I mean, we've got a lot to talk about. Tell us about, your family. You've kind of had a little whirlwind, with your family, and then you've got, you're remodeling a house. You and I have kind of chatted about that. We're kind of both in that same process.
Yes.
Married, kids.
10-year-old daughter.
Okay.
Yeah, it's crazy. I have a 10-year-old daughter from my first daughter's mother. That's a nice way of putting it. I've been raising her for the last 8 or 9 years on and off with her mother. So we've been doing that in a split household. And I met my wife 2 years ago. Our first date, I told her I was never getting married or having kids because I was too old. And my second daughter was born 2.5 months ago, and I've been married for a year. So that, I'm pretty good at predicting the future. Let's say that.
Well, one of the posts for the audience, the post that you have of your oldest daughter on the big wheel that you obviously made her. I mean, that was kind of one of the, that was a very viral, that was a very cool big wheel. Where'd that come from?
Well, I have a 1981 DeLorean, so that was my first car I ever bought. Original car. It's got 36,000 miles, but I drove it on and off. I've owned it since I was 19. I'm 42, so we've owned this DeLorean, which is one of the most poorly made, slow cars they ever, that were ever invented. But everybody and their mother knows it as the time machine. So when my daughter was 5, I got the inkling. I made her a single-sided swing arm, car-tired pedal bike with a disc brake up front, just to match the DeLorean. I made it all out of stainless steel, and it was just a side project that I took on. And then I was about $3,000 into it, and then it wasn't really a side project anymore. And a billionaire buddy of mine he saw that one. He wanted me to build another one for his granddaughter. So I built one with a big 20 by, I want to say it had an 11-inch wheel on it. And it was, I don't know, it was a $5,000 project for a little kid's pedal scooter, but they turned out, people love them. So yeah, I just built that to match the DeLorean so she could have her own. Well, technically Santa built that.
Yeah.
I had no part in it, but it was here on Christmas morning. So yeah, that was it. I do some welding. I welded for a couple of years of my life and like to TIG weld. So I just figured I'd build her a little pedal scooter to match the time machine.
So you before we went on air, for the audience, we were talking a little bit about, he went to school in Colorado State, and he had, of all things, an English degree. Now, with this, you being 19 and you getting this DeLorean, were you inspired to get the DeLorean because of Back to the Future, or because you thought it was a rad car?
Absolutely had no intention of buying it. My father, back in the newspaper, this is prior to internet for you young people. We didn't have internet, so you bought cars out of the newspaper. And my dad calls me one night, and he's like, hey, meet me at Bandamere Speedway, which is, 12 minutes from our house, the racetrack here. He's like, meet me at Bandamere. We're going to go look at this car. And in rolls a 1981 DeLorean, which I honestly didn't know what it was when it rolled up till the doors went up. And I was like, that's a Back to the Future car. And I bought it cheap. So I think I paid $11,000 for it back then, but I did it to build credit. My dad's like, you need to build credit, buy a car. You might as well buy a classic, have something that'll go up in value, which strangely that thing keeps going up in value. So yeah, that's how we ended up with the time machine.
What's a DeLorean worth? I mean, your DeLorean looks very stock minty, like a high end. I mean, I don't know how to grade it. It's
good condition. I mean, it's not pristine by any means, and I'm going to motor swap it next. Actually, I think the C10's got an LS turbo setup in it, and I talked to Steve Morris, the big race car engine builder, about maybe putting an LS3 turbo in the time machine, but I think I might stick with a little V6 turbo, something or other. They literally made 114 horsepower from the factory. And here in Denver at 10,000 feet of corrected altitude, they're making maybe 85 horse. So we don't get out of the right lane much. Let's just say that.
Now, is that something that's like a throttle body, or is it just carbureted?
Yep. It's all EFI. The whole thing's an EFI deal on a single throttle body. So I'll pull the motor out. I think like a VR6 out of a Volkswagen with a turbo will make 300 or so reliable horsepower, and that's all that car needs. They only weigh 2,900 pounds, so they're super light. But I mean, I've contemplated even putting together a proposal for like building the world's fastest or quickest DeLorean, like put some radial tires on it and, 500-600 horsepower, and see if we can go run 10-second quarter miles with it.
What's the worst part of owning a DeLorean? Like, just parts? I mean,
it's not at all. There's 5 DeLorean dealers in the U.S. That's no kidding. A guy in Houston, Texas bought all the parts when DeLorean went defunct in like 84. He bought everything, so that you can literally buy a brand new DeLorean today for $70,000. You can go down to Texas and buy one off the showroom floor as it came off the assembly line.
No shit.
No, they're just horribly made. I mean, they're just, well, not horribly. They're just poorly made.
Yeah.
Like, they just didn't have a lot of fit and finish on it, and DeLorean was going bankrupt halfway through that deal. And the cars, the only way you could tell an 81 and 82, 83 apart is the hood. The first hood had 2 stripes down it with a gas tank flapper lid. The next year, when they were running out of money, they took the gas flapper lid out. In 83, it's just a flat hood. There's your DeLorean information for the day.
Not quite like a 67, trying to tell a 67 between a 68 or something like that. It's pretty remarkable to think that, I'm trying to think what I heard, and this was within the last month, the car, so Mustang, Ford was going to pay Back to the Future, the producer, Spielberg, whoever, made that movie and wrote it and everything else. I think they were going to pay him $50,000 to have the time machine be a Mustang. And the marketing of it, and they're like, no. The time machine is a DeLorean. And
that was the only thing that saved the value of that car at all. If not, I mean, the car was so badly made because they were called a DMC 12. They were supposed to be $12,000. That was the deal. That was the marketing ploy. they came out and they sold for 29 grand in 1980 and 1981. Like, dude, that's $140 today for a car with 100 horsepower. Like, I wouldn't have bought one, but I bought mine from the original owner. He was a doctor in Pueblo, Colorado, a couple hours away, and he passed away. His kid didn't want the car and put it on in the newspaper.
So you're the second owner. That's pretty rad.
Second owner. Yeah, so I'll never sell it. I'll motor swap it or do whatever. My daughter loves going to school in it. She's 10 years old. So we roll up to a school and all the kids think it's a Lambo or something. And I wish, child. I wish.
I just think it's a timeless thing. I think when you do factor in the Back to the Futures and, there's like 3 or 4 of them, and then you just see that car, the whole combination of it. Now, go forward to you and your C10. Is it just a coincidence that they're both bare metal? I mean, it's crazy.
That they both look the same. When we were about halfway through the truck, Precision Designs is the guy he's a buddy of mine named Tom Stark. He actually built it for me, and he saw a bare metal. He had a hand in the Riddler car that won in 2018. There's a 57 Chevy. So these dudes know how to build a hot rod. Well, he sends me a picture and he's like, man, bare metal would be badass. And I was like, you're right. And I don't have to spend 25 grand to paint it. I mean, literally once we got so heavy into the build of the truck, it was like, dude, I don't think I want to spend 25 grand to paint this yet, because I don't know what color I want to paint it. So we leave it in bare metal. There's nothing on it. Like, as soon as it gets rained on, it rusts. I mean, it's a pain, but it also has its own little aura of people now love the bare metal look. And so I just put a little bit of oil on it. They have an oil you put on them, and that basically keeps it from immediately rusting if it gets rain on it.
Do you get stressed out?
Probably not a coincidence. It's probably not. I just like old bare metal things, apparently.
It wouldn't, the money, I mean, if you think about the pain, you could obviously clear it or do something to it. So it is got to be more that it does stand out because of the bare metal. And
for sure,
the pictures that you've taken, there's obviously some that are very professional with the the rock landscape and the different colors that you have up there. You're killing it with the truck. Now, were you a 67, 68 guy, or is this just kind of what landed in your lap?
When I started this project, the first guy screwed me about 25 grand. He drank away my money when he was supposed to be working it, but it was a 72. I was like the waffle grill on him. My grandpa had him, my dad had him. And so I had bought that. Well, we get into the cab and we start to blast it after I figured that guy was just drinking my money away. He wasn't building me a truck. Pulled the truck out of there. We blasted that cab, and the floor's gone. The corners are gone. The whole thing was gone. So I ended up with another buddy who needed some money, and he had a 67 and a 71. So we ended up blasting all 3 cabs. Took the best one, which happened to be the small window, and then hindsight, it probably wasn't the best one, but I like the small window. It's a little, I guess, I don't know that it's more rare, but it seems to be a little more rare.
I think they're rare when you factor in from 67 to 72. Obviously, for 67, when I was a kid, one guy in high school did have a small back window, and it was like, it's a rare small back window. In 67, the rarity was if it was a panoramic, which is the big back window. And then what ended up happening with all those cabs is they became all the C50, C60 trucks. Because if you look at you're in Colorado, you look at those grain trucks, and that's where all those cabs ended up.
Yep. Interesting. See, I'm learning something here.
Yeah, but it is funny. C10 King, he sent me a little text the other day because he's got a small back window, and he's like, I heard you don't really like small back windows. And I'm like, it's not that I don't like them. I like them if they're done right, meaning low and wide tires. My son's 66 has a small back window because in those trucks, I think more of them had small back windows. For sure they did. But you can't see. You drive your truck, I'm sure you're daily, and then you turn and you can't see. It's like, what the hell were they thinking with the small back window?
Yeah, and I only have 2 mirrors on mine. I don't even have a passenger mirror on the truck. So it's like, well, I've realized as long as I'm out accelerating everybody, it's fine.
Yeah, well, you won't have to worry about that. That's a good point. I think, another thing when you kind of look at that, and you're thinking about the limited visibility, one of the guys was like, and they don't even really stamp it, right? So on the 66s, it's got the stamp on that truck. They're like, nah, we're just gonna throw the small back window in there. And so it's one of those things where I think it cycles. It's when I was a kid, they were definitely more popular, and then it's like, okay, now the big back window, now the small back window. So the bottom line is your truck, it's got plenty of special things going on there. Now tell us about the power plant, because you're a speed guy.
What did we start with? LS1, I had an iron block, and I come from a motorcycling background. I've built tons and tons of motorcycle inline four stuff, so made tons of power with that. Well, this was the very first car engine I'd ever built, but I needed to know how it worked. So bought an LS1 out of a 2006 Yukon steel block. Didn't know anything about it, tore the entire thing apart, and then I bought an LS1, how to build an LS1 book on the internet. Literally, and just went page by page and taught my daughter how to do valve springs, and my wife helped me torque rod bolts. And it was kind of just one of those, I need to learn by touching it, not reading it in the book. So I had to put the engine together in case, hey, you push a head gasket, you break a rocker, you do whatever, you need to know how to fix it. So that was my mentality. And then that morphed into a big 75 millimeter turbo, and then this week we're putting it on E85, and we're gonna take it back to the dyno and remap it. And it's got a full Holley Dominator like ECU on the thing. I mean, I have learned from racing where to spend the money, and I knew if you buy the quality stuff ahead of time, you don't have to buy it twice.
It's kind of like life, isn't it crazy how you get what you pay for type deal? I mean, as we get older, and I try to tell people, and some of it is you just don't have the money. So what you get when you don't get what you thought you wanted is experience, and you go through that, and sometimes we have these valuable lessons, and it's I think that's the fun part of the journey, where it sounds exactly like what you're saying is like, I wanted to buy it, build it, and learn it and know it. It's like, I love that part of it. I love the knowledge part of it, where you're like, I'm going to kind of, cut my teeth with this, doing it the hard way, so I can have that knowledge and skin in the game, if you will.
Yep. And I had learned on the internet, watching the forums. I mean, it needed rods, it needed pistons. We put a cam in it. I did all the interior upgrades, the big ARP stuff, everything to make a ton of power, but we didn't know what it would make. And we took it to the dyno. I mean, literally finished the engine, put it in the truck, and drove it 7 miles to the dyno, and it ripped off 700 rear wheel horse at 13 pounds of boost, which, not knowing what it was going to do with that kind of power, I mean, that's pretty good for 700 rear wheel on pump gas on 91 octane. So this week we're putting it on E85. We're going to turn it up to 18 pounds, and I'm going to try. One of my 2 goals for this year was make 800 rear wheel horse and run an 11-second quarter mile at Vandermeer, which is the highest racetrack in the country, the highest drag strip. So
is that the one in Denver?
Yeah. So it's outside, and it's a mile up above sea level, and then corrected altitudes between 9,000 and 11,000 feet up here. So there's no air, but put a big enough turbo on it and put enough fuel in it, it should run. I mean, we went 1220 at 120 with it the very first time out, and had all sorts of problems. So I think 1150s is what it'll run, 125, 130, somewhere up at Vandermeer this summer.
Now, what tranny are you running?
It's got a Performance built 4L60. So that's
the
we
the
know
weak
that's
link.
our weak link. Yeah, we know it's the weak link, but I also didn't put big, huge tires on this truck for that reason. I've drag raced enough to know, it's only got a 10 bolt in it. It's got 22-inch tall, but it's only got 295 rear tires on it. So it'll blitz the tires at 80 miles an hour on the highway, but it doesn't seem to spin at the racetrack, which is weird. So we're going to turn it up another 150 horsepower and find out. It'll probably spin now.
What posi are you running?
It's True Track.
Okay, yeah. And then what kind of boost with that with that turbo?
13 pounds is where it made 702, and then we're going to run it up. I put an 18-pound spring in it, so we're going to literally dyno it probably next Wednesday. But we're switching. We're going to make a new map for it, so I can toggle between a 91 pump gas map and then a E85 map. So I'll have one for the drag strip, one, just to rip around if we're going to go to Arizona or wherever we're going to go.
Yeah, so, change it up. Is that something maps. You have to, do you have a torque converter lockup, or how does that work for that thing when you're dragging?
It's just got a torque converter with a 3500 stall in it.
Well, let's talk about your racing. I mean,
I'm
you're
learning all this car stuff. Trust me. I'm no.
well.
rocket
I think if you've got the
I've
foundation
learned
you
all.
do, are you still the fastest guy in two wheels?
Yeah, I still hold the backed up world record at 255 and a quarter mile on a motorcycle in 5 seconds.
What does that mean, backed up? How explain that?
So to be an official backed up world record at the same event when you're racing. So I went 255 on Friday night during qualifying. To be a backed up record, to break anybody's record, you have to be within 1% of that time. So I set it at 255 and I had to go within 1% of 255 at the same event between qualifying and eliminations. So I backed it up Sunday night. I went 255 Friday night, couldn't get it done all weekend. And then in the final race on Sunday night, I went 254. And that was back in 2011 when I set that, and nobody's beat it yet.
Anything close?
A couple of guys. So I was the first person in the world back in 2008 to go 250 in the quarter mile, like on a motorcycle. I mean, cars did this 30 years ago, but a motorcycle, nobody had ever done it. So I did that in 2008, and then we went 255 in 2011, and a couple of guys have gone over 250 now, 2 or 3.
What's
so
that
there's
like?
Probably 3 of them in the world.
Can you even put that into words? Can you explain to the audience what it's like to go 200 miles an hour, 250? C10 Nation. Let me tell you about my buddies Travis, his dad Jack, a.k.a. Dad, and Nick. They run Pro Performance, AZ Pro Performance. They're active in our community. They're C10 guys. They're always working on new stuff, like their new suspension line, React Suspension. They're master dealers for AccuAir, Dakota Digital, Bear, Boyd Welding, Vintage Air, and many more. They're C10 specialists and stock many fast-moving products backed by their stellar customer service. Not only do they sell C10 parts, but they live and breathe C10s and are very active in our community. Like I said, look for them at your next truck show. Nick might be there if they let him out, but usually Travis and his dad, Jack, and they want to talk to you and help you out with your C10 project. Follow them on Instagram, Facebook, and you can also check out their Facebook group called C10 Addiction. So check them out and let them know that I sent you. You've heard me talk about my gauges, Dakota Digital. I love them. Don't forget the interior of your build. Dakota Digital has the best gauges for our trucks. Whether you want a direct fit into the stock bezel or something custom. These kits are complete with sensors for any engine. The new RTX series is really incredible. I think it stands for retro, but it should stand for rad. They look just like the stock clusters, but have all the technology you'd expect from Dakota Digital. You can change the lighting colors, customize the reading in the message centers, and do it all from the mobile app. That's right, the HDX and RTX series have Bluetooth technology, so you can mess with them from your phone. Just don't do it while you're driving. I mean, literally, I can have Yellowstone. I'm looking at RPM, trip odometer, percent fuel, oil pressure, and now I have the GPS set up. I can tell you direction, elevation, and even outside temp. Damn, son, it's like a modern truck, but even better in a classic. Dakota Digital is absolutely the best in aftermarket gauges, so check them out at dakotadigital.com. dakotadigital.com. And you can follow them on Instagram and Facebook too. Can you even put that into words? Can you explain to the audience what it's like to go 200 miles an hour, 250?
Layman's terms, and I've tried to explain it for 15 years. The bike goes from a dead stop to 200 miles an hour in 3 seconds. So by the 8th mile, by 1/8 of 1 mile, so by half track, I've been, I think, 208 in 3.7 seconds. So the bike's pulling 3.5 to 4 Gs from what we call the hit. So it's basically going 0 to 100 in 1 second. Well, 0 to 60 is in 0.7 of a second. So, I mean, if that makes more sense, it goes 0 to 60 in 0.7, and it'll go 200 miles an hour, where a normal car is going 60. It'll go 200. And then in the back half, we pick up another 60 miles an hour. So I went 255 miles an hour and a quarter of a mile in 5 seconds. So it's pretty fast.
I mean, what does that do to your body? Are you thinking? Are you shifting? Is that something? I don't even know. Is that a 5-speed bike?
So your first gear is 200 miles an hour. Then you put it into high gear.
What's the
so
RPM?
there's a shift button up on the handlebar, and I know when the bike basically it picks the wheel up at the starting line and doesn't set it back down. The front wheel's in the air the entire quarter of a mile. But the problem is you can't have the wheel 18 inches in the air where it wants to be because it won't pick up the timing beams at the end of the quarter mile. So you'll float the front tire over and it gives you erroneous readings, like you're either going too fast or your mile an hour is way too high. So you have to set the front wheel down at 240. You have to let off the throttle enough to get the front wheel to set back down on the ground while you're going 240 miles an hour. So it'll pick up the front wheel so you get the correct time. And then that's when the fun begins, is trying to stop a 1,200-pound motorcycle going 250 miles an hour, which is, I had someone tell me once, it's a football field in less than a second. So you're covering a football field per second at 250 miles an hour trying to get a motorcycle stopped, get fuel shut off, get the parachute out. I had to put a parachute on the bike in 2011 because we couldn't get it stopped. So nobody in the world was doing this at the time because everybody thought you were going to die. So we had the brilliant idea of mounting a parachute to the wheelie bars on the bike, and then I throw the parachute out with my hand. I hit a button up on the handlebars right by the shifter. It throws the chute out, and that's how we stop. You use as much brake as you possibly can in a huge parachute.
I assume you're going through brakes like crazy on that thing.
Oh, we were cooking them.
Yeah.
Like it was everything I could do to get, I'm 200 pounds. The bike's 1,100, so we're 1,300 pounds ripping through there, and it is literally the worst part of riding a fuel bike, stopping. It's not going. Stopping is the worst.
That's pretty crazy to think. You're like, oh, shit, this is fun. This is fun. I'm going really fast. Oh, I got to stop.
At 200 and about 20 mile an hour, your brain tells you should stop. But by then you're at 3/4 track and you just say you literally count one Mississippi because you've covered another football field in 1 second. And then the ride's over. But your common sense kicks in. 220 mile an hour. You're going fast and your brain is telling you shouldn't be going that
Korry,
fast. For sure.
Common sense. I think at 150, I'd be like, I should probably slow down now. You're like 220.
That's in like 2 seconds. You're fine.
Oh, my God.
The ride's not even the party hasn't even started by then, Ronnie.
How did you get into this? Were you a speed guy?
I've never had a speeding ticket ever to this day. I've never had an accident to this day. I drive like a little old lady.
You have had accidents. You've crashed your motorcycle like 3 times.
Well, but never on the street.
Okay.
Like, I've been pretty lucky. Oh, yeah. I've definitely got hurt racing. I was racing dirt bikes and doing all that and freestyle motocross when that all came out. I was in college and broke my shoulder, and my dad's like, Vandermeer Speedway, which is one of the nicest drag strips in the country, is like 10 minutes from our house. So I graduated, and he's like, let's go drag race. I think he's midlife crisising. He's an ex, chopper builder from the 60s, 70s. And it was like, all right, let's go drag race. So we bought these 2 little 9-second drag bikes, and man, it was all, then I found nitrous, then I found turbos, and then that all went well. And Mom and Dad and I traveled the country for 3 years. We went, every single month we would go from Colorado to Florida, Colorado to Georgia, Colorado to Virginia, and we'd race for a weekend and come back, and I'd spend 7 days working on the bike, and it was a lot of work, but we set 2 world records back then. We won back-to-back national championships, and then I realized I was broke and 28 years old because I was spending 4 times as much on the motorcycle as I was actually making. So I decided that I was going to let that go. So I won my 2nd national championship and set the world record with that bike and sold it to a buddy of mine in Sweden and was retired. And then another team and another family built this, these Top Fuel bikes are about $300,000 to build. So they had built one and they didn't have a rider, and I had just technically retired. So of course I'm going to jump on it. And the old bike made about 650 horse. That was rear wheel. Top Fuel bikes are blown nitromethane, so they're an inline 4-cylinder of a Top Fuel car. If anybody's ever seen a Top Fuel car, fuel cars make about 10,000, 14,000 horse. Inline 4 motorcycles make about 1,600 horse. So my bike, basically, probably rear wheel horsepower made around 1,500. And it's a inline 4-cylinder motorcycle, but it had the last bike, the one I crashed here 2 years ago, it had a 3.2 liter Whipple supercharger on it, which is bigger than like what's on a Hellcat.
Yeah. Wow.
Or your ZR1. So we had a supercharger bigger than that on an inline 4 motor on nitromethane, which nitromethane it's an odd duck. As it's compressed, it makes oxygen. So you've heard of nitro, you've seen it, it blows flames out, blah, blah, blah. Well, the bike consumed 6 gallons of nitro in a quarter of a mile. So we used 8 gallons of fuel to go one run. Well, it's $25 a gallon. That's why I didn't own this last bike. I just flew in. I rode it for a family out of Michigan, and we did that for 10 years. Yeah, that's how I got into the drag racing thing. And it didn't always go well, let's say that.
So you're retired. You come out of retirement. You weren't retired long, and then you do it for another 10 years.
My ego wasn't ready to retire. And, well, the problem was I couldn't afford a fuel bike. I mean, I was big enough. I was 190 pounds in good shape then, and to wrestle 1,000-pound motorcycle going 200 miles an hour in 3 seconds, you can't be small. It's much easier to bulldog one because the front end's not on the ground. The front tire's not on the ground. So you're driving it like the old school 3-wheelers. You got your feet on the pegs, the front end's in the air, and you're accelerating faster than common sense can keep up with. But you just kind of jerk the bike back and forth to keep it in the lane and stay out of the other guy's way.
How did you do people in that world, do they want to go up to top fuel cars, or are they just like, I'm a 2-wheeler, I love 2-wheeling, I'm staying in 2-wheel?
Nope, and that was it. You're either a bike guy or you're not. And I was always a bike guy. This was always my jam, to BMX, to unicycles, to whatever. I always liked wheels, and I always had to have that. And I've never wanted to get in a fuel car or anything like that because honestly, it's the fire. I don't want to burn to death in a car. Like, I don't want trapped in something that could crush around me like a pop can, and you're stuck in it. Like motorcycle, I've come off at 200 miles an hour 3 different times now and walked away from every one of them. And it's like, maybe I should stop doing that. But I feel like it's a little less dangerous, but somebody else might have a different opinion.
So walking away from these accidents, 3 accidents over 200 miles an hour, are you walking away and then being very sore for months, or did you have any long-term issues from that?
I crushed a disc in my spine. So the last one, I crushed whatever the lowest disc in your spine is. It's pretty hard for me to get out of bed, but I'm going to deal with that at the end of this year. The first crash, I mean, I don't know if you want the rundown of these, but they're all pretty, they're their own little sweet elements.
Do it, brother. Do it. I mean, like I said at the beginning, the C10 is merely interesting at this point. I mean, this guy's the fastest guy on 2 wheels, and he's laid it down 3 times.
Yeah. So the first one, back in 2008, this one was on the internet. It's gone viral. We were down in we were down in Gainesville, Florida, in the final, running the final. Me and the other fastest guy and I in the world. He was the guy to beat. About 3/4 track. These engines spin about 10,000 RPM, and a spark plug broke. We lay over the engine. So you're literally laying over an inline 4 that's got nitromethane. And it's volatile. I mean, it'll blow up or catch fire or whatever. Well, the spark plug breaks. And somehow or another ends up grounding to the zippers on my leathers, where I zip up my leathers and keep them on. Well, it made ground with my leathers. And we run a 44-amp magneto, which 44 amps you can weld with. It's 80,000 volts. Well, when it did that, I'm trucking down probably 215 miles an hour. It finally makes ground while I'm holding onto aluminum handlebars. So I create the perfect circle, and it blows out the glove on my right hand and then blew a hole in my hand. And every time the motor would fire, it would shock me. But it's going 10,000 RPM. So, I mean, I don't know what's going on. Like, the bike is literally shocking me. You know what electricity will do. And I let go of the bike. I mean, I didn't know what the hell was going on. I'm going 200 plus mile an hour. So I just let go of the bike, and off I came, rolled through the traps at 183 miles an hour.
Were you thinking that it was more than that? I mean, I would think something. I'm assuming you didn't think that was exactly what was going on at the time. You're like, I'm dying. Something's happened. I'm dying.
Literally, I could feel it. My shoulder muscles. That's what I remember. It was tensing my shoulder muscles, and it literally blew a hole in my hand, on my right hand, and then it blew out my pinky. So it came in one hand, it came out the other, and it blew out my pinky where it was holding onto the aluminum handlebars. It just blew my gloves apart, basically. So, no, I didn't know what was going on. But, man, I knew it didn't take very long to figure out it wasn't anything. It was like something was biting me. So I just let go of the damn bike, and off I came at 200 and rolled through at 183. Yeah, that was pretty fun.
Well, I mean, you do own a DeLorean, so it's kind of like what is it 1.1 gigawatts running through your body? I mean, for the audience, if you've had muscle stem, you've went to physical therapy, and they work on your muscles, and they fire that thing up, and then they're like, here, you're at 5, let's take you to 10. You were at like 200. That shit was cranking your muscles.
No, it was full tilt. I mean, enough to blow through thick leather gloves, like at full tilt. So no, I hit the ground. I rolled over a couple times. I tore my MCL in my knee. I went to work on Monday. This is Saturday or Sunday. Totally lived through the deal. 2011, I set the mile-an-hour world record in April at 255. So I started telling my team, I can't hold on to the bike anymore. Your hands on our old design, that bike that I set the record on, my hands were not covered by anything. So you basically had a little air fairing in front of your chest and your head to hide behind, but your hands were out in the wind. Well, these still have brake handles on them. Rear brake, front brake are both mounted to the handlebars. There's nothing on your feet. Your feet are basically on foot pegs. Well, I'm ripping through there at 255 miles an hour, and I have to open my hands up with these big leather gloves on to get the parachute out to shut off the nitromethane. We basically shut the fuel off. That's how you shut a fuel car off. And I had to get the brakes out while covering a football field per second. So it's that transition where it was fast, now get on the brakes as fast as possible. Well, I set this record 255 miles an hour, and I told the guys, I was like, we got to figure something else. Make me a new air fairing, do me something to where I can get my hands out of the wind. Well, we make one. It's awesome. It's in Oklahoma. We're going to go test in Michigan the week before we get it. Okay. So up in Michigan, rip off the quickest pass in history. It was a 578. So we covered a quarter of a mile in 5.7 seconds. Open my hand up. It blows my hand off the handlebar. I was going 250 when I shut the throttle off right at 250 and opened my hand up and just jerked my hand off, lifted me off the bike, and off she went. So that's also on the internet. It's not nearly as exciting. Woke up about 600 feet down the racetrack. I slid, landed flat on my back. It knocked me out. Slid about 600 feet. So it finally got through my leathers, gave me a big, awesome tramp stamp on my back, where it melted through my skin. Yeah, it didn't scar into a butterfly. Don't get excited.
Still a tramp stamp.
Still a tramp stamp.
Yeah.
Honey, you love it, right? Oh, yeah, she said. I'll pay you beer later.
Yeah.
And that was it. Got to the hospital, and the doctor, they rolled me in on a gurney, and I don't have my top leathers on. And he said, well, you were in a motorcycle accident. Did you get hit by a car? And I was like, no, I was at the drag strip and I blew off my bike. And he's like, well, how fast were you going? And I was like, oh, bro, I was going like way over 200. And he looked at me like I'd lost my mind. And he's like, sure you were. I was like, oh, really? This is how this is going to go. So no, the guys got there. I went through at 246 that time. Walked away from it. Basically, I have a tramp stamp. That's it. It's a little bit of road rash. And this last time, that was 2011. The last time was 2 years ago.
So back to the hand thing. I'm such a visual guy. I see like me as a kid, or every kid in the world. Summer vacation. You're sticking your hand out the window, and your hand is going. Whew, but we're going 55. In the K5 Blazer. You're going 250 miles an hour.
And now open your hand with a leather glove on, and open your palm to grab the brake handles into the wind. Yeah, it didn't make a lot of sense. But the problem was, when we were going this fast, no one had ever been that fast. We walked into, I've been 200 miles an hour a couple thousand times and never had a problem with it. Ever. We walked into 230, 240, 250 miles an hour where people had never gone, and nobody'd ask. I mean, there's no advice you can get from anybody. There was one other guy in the world that was running in that neighborhood. And, I learned a hard lesson. Like, maybe we should have put the fairing on and covered my hands up, but my ego didn't allow that. So we went racing instead.
That's amazing. I mean, that perspective right there, 65, 55, 65, 75, I don't care, it's 85. Your hand, it just, it whips back. And to think you're going 245 plus miles an hour, it's, there's some insanity. There's definitely some crazy shit going on in your head and in your team. And that's, I'm glad you walked away with only a tramp stamp.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's a nice one.
So the third one you finally figured out, like, I'm done?
No, we built a big air fairing and everything was good. We tested for a year, and then we were down in Georgia ripping through a run, being one of the other fast 5 in the world, and engine and connecting rod bolt broke, punched a hole in the oil pan, which we run like 180 PSI of oil pressure in this motor and 45 pounds of boost. So it was didn't take very long. Once it got through the pan, it just covered the rear tire in oil and turned sideways and put me head first into the wall. Yeah, that was it. It caught fire, and I came off of it in the middle of the racetrack, and that's it.
Are you thinking bail? I mean, are you thinking, okay, once?
There's like 1 second, but I knew Chris was next to me. The other guy was in the other lane, and it's like, you either ride it out or you don't. And I mean, there is 1/2 of 1 second where you either let go or you don't. But I knew if I slid into his lane, he was just going to run into me. So I just rode her out. I was like, this can't. Oh, it went bad.
Are you a motorcycle guy recreationally?
Yeah, I sold every single street bike I've owned. I've owned 60, 70 of them, and I don't think I'll ever ride again just because traffic's so bad.
Yeah. Yeah, I was wondering, like, what about like a, Harley cruising? Is that something that...
No, I sold my Buell. I had a chopper. The last 2 actually were a Buell and a chopper. And I'm good. I'm going to build old cars for a while.
Yeah. Well, and you've got to... Well, let's get back into that. I mean, it is a truck show, but that's just remarkable, and it's amazing. Now, before we jump back, how does that work for when you were kind of talking about the fairing, and it made me think of like Bonneville and those guys that are on those like style of motorcycles. Is that how fast are those guys going that are on the Bonneville South Flats?
As fast as we were, more. I mean, 260, 270. Like they do it in 7 miles, but I think the record, I don't know for a fact, but I think the record's getting up there, like 270, 280, somewhere around there.
But again, like you said, the G perspective is they're doing it over 7 miles. You're doing it in a quarter mile.
See what's going on. You know what's going on. Our bikes, there's no shift light. There's nothing. Like I rode them off of instinct. You literally, when the bike would start to nose over at 10,000, 11,000 RPM, then you shifted it into high gear. So about 3.5 seconds, you're going 200 miles an hour. That's when you plug it into high gear, and then you just hold on. You tuck behind the windscreen, and you hold on, and here we go.
Do you miss it? C10 Nation, are you thinking about upgrading that motor? Well, PSI is your go-to source for LSX conversion wiring harnesses. They have been in the LS conversion business for 10 years, or I like to say C10 years. They specialize in standalone wiring harness for GM Gen 2, 3, 4, 5, LS and LT-based engines and transmissions. Aside from harnesses, they offer components and kits for retrofitting older vehicles, PCM programming, fuel systems, engine sensors, replacement GM pigtails, and so much more. All harnesses are made with pride in the USA. In-house full-time technical support to help you with all of your installation questions, after-sales customer support, and a 4-wire hookup to make the installation process as easy as possible. For our listeners, go to psiconversions.com/C10 Talk. psiconversions.com/C10 Talk. Use coupon code C10 Talk and you will get a free shirt and free shipping on orders over $250. Free shipping and a free t-shirt. So if you're going to switch out that motor and upgrade to an LS-based motor, you're ready to go with PSI. Hey guys, I use precision replacement parts on my builds because I demand quality and I demand precision. If you want the best weather stripping, demand precision. PRP.com, it's that easy, PRP.com. Seriously, check this out. OEM designed parts, it's easy to install, and you have a lifetime warranty. Everything from windshield seals, rear window seals, door seals, roof rail seals, vent window seals, beltline molding, glass run channels, trunk seals, hood decal, you need it, they've got it. They also have their vent window refurbishing program. You send in your wing windows, and they send them back, and they're completely rebuilt, disassembled, sandblasted, painted, and they replace and install new weather stripping, new glass, and handles. Talk about quality, talk about precision, and that's why I use Precision Replacement Parts. PRP.com. And follow them on social media as well. Do you miss it?
Strangely, no, I don't. I did it for, a long, long time, and it about killed me enough times that I've realized this last go around, my parents were standing on the starting line, and so was my going to be wife at the time. And I was laying in there, and we didn't know if I broke my neck yet. I was still in the hospital, and my mom walked in, and the look on her face told me all I needed to know. They were the most supportive people. They took me all over the country, and she started crying, and that was it. It literally broke my heart.
Wow.
So, nope. And I haven't had one inkling to get back on it. And that's okay. You ride 1,500 horsepower motorcycles for long, they're going to bite you. And I literally have probably 3 of the fastest crashes in the planet, and I've walked away from all of them. I'm only going to play with fire for so long. So,
well, you had a good run. You had a great run, right? Another thing, you're in the Hall of Fame, right, for Colorado for the for motorsports.
I got inducted into that, and it was, that was kind of the crowning jewel. And it was an emotional choke up for me because I wasn't ready to retire. This was months after I'd crashed, just a couple months, and I'd gotten nominated to get into the Hall of Fame here in Denver, in Colorado, and it was kind of that was the nail on the racing coffin for me. Like, that chapter of my life was done that night. It was hard to get through, the speech and all that, but I also had already started my truck. And so I had started my truck about a year before that. I'd started stockpiling parts because I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted the lowrider, and I always loved the old Chevys. My dad had square bodies and dualies, and I knew I wanted one, and I wanted a 67 to 72 because they were super hot back then, and I've always liked the way they look, and I wanted them on big wheels, and I wanted it bagged, and I wanted everything, and then it turned into the Turbo LS thing, and then it was see if we can make 700, 900, 1,000 horsepower. So I apparently have a speeding problem. I just don't do it on the streets.
I think it's a vice. It's cool. It's like, okay, I'm going to retire whether you are ready or not. You made the right decision, obviously, married, family, baby, your mom. And now you have that, whatever it is, an outlet for everybody listening, for the C10 Nation. You have an outlet. And I wrote an article for the Builder's Guide. It's like, dude, getting out in the shop and just grinding and whether it's your son, your daughter, your wife, your fiance, your friend, your neighbor, that's life. That's some cool shit. And we're lucky, in this world we live in, the United States of America, we can do that. You can go buy a truck, you can wrench under the tree. And I'm glad that you found what you found. I'm glad you found a C10, and we're honored to have you in this group.
It's the camaraderie. And I know I've heard that about a couple of different people, but so I've been reading street trucks and classic trucks for a long time, years and years and years. And I've always appreciated how it doesn't seem to be the bashing on the internet. You got the lifted trucks versus the lower trucks, and lower trucks are stupid and blah, blah, blah. I get all that, and everybody's got their opinion about it. But it reminds me of my racing family. Like, we all went and we traveled the country, and we spent thousands and thousands and thousands. And you get to the end of a Sunday, and whoever won, but you're all still friends. And I still call all these people my friends because that's what they are. And it was your fierce competitors, just like building trucks. Not everybody's going to like each other. Everybody's going to, I don't like how that looks. I don't like that front end. But you're all in the same boat together, whether it's racing, whether it's C10s. It just gave me an outlet to be part of a group and to feed my ego. I'm not going to, my wife's probably listening in the other room, and she's like, wonder if he's going to get to that. It was an ego thing for me. Like, I'm this big motorcycle racer, everybody knows, blah, 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 blah. that got taken away from me. Like when I crashed, that was it. So I built this truck, which should have been a $50,000 build, and we're way over that by now. But it was like, it became a drug.
Yeah.
It became, well, hell, I'm going to do a suspension. Then we're going to do AN fittings on everything. And it's going to be, and it's not the nicest C10 in the country. I know that, but it was my outlet, and it was what I needed to focus on to get away from racing. And it's been a very good transition for me, because I can go out in my garage, I can put my daughter in it, I can put my wife in it. We're not on, I'm not riding a chopper, I'm not riding a street bike. I can take my family to do this.
Yeah.
We can go to a show. We can do all the things that my parents and I did, I can take with the girls. Like, Top Fuel Racing is super selfish. It's a one-man show. You have a team that helps you, but there's only one person that can die, and there's only one person that can win. Like, now we can go to a show, we can go hang out, we can go meet other people. I'm looking forward to meeting everyone. I don't know anybody. I watch it on the internet. I've read all the magazines. I've kept up on it, and through social media, I feel like I've watched enough people and learned about them, but I don't know the personalities. Like, I'd never had a conversation with you till tonight.
Yeah.
But you know what? We have a common goal. We have a common bond, and everybody knows the struggle. Like, the people that build these trucks, the young people that are learning about these trucks, it's just good for everybody. I mean, it's a good community, and I'm looking forward to building another one. Sorry, Dad, but
well, you said the struggle. That was that's a powerful word. That's a powerful word. I can't say that tonight, because you, like you said, hey, it was my internal issues from being taken off the bike. I needed something to do. And everybody, when we get together at shows, whether it be a coffee show up in Adams Polishes is doing something in Colorado, Cars and Coffee, the Get Down, LST, that's where guys anymore, the trucks bring us together with like-minded guys that are all in this struggle. And let's be real, the struggle of spending $50,000+ first world problems on a really rad C10. I love it. For me at work, guys are like, explain this to me again. And you're like, well, listen, it's the metal that we're wrapping around it. You like the style of the metal, but you're building a brand new truck. You're building an 06 LS turboed truck on a GSI suspension. You're putting raceline wheels on it, and you're making it one of the raddest trucks around. But the metal is what draws us in, the styling, and it's the struggle again. We're all there breaking bread, drinking beer, hanging out, and looking and admiring one another's work. And for you to say, like, is my ego, that's got to be therapeutic. It's got to be not easy to say, but at the same time, it's like, hey, I'm 42, 43-year-old man. It was my ego. I got taken off my bike.
100%, and that's why I'm looking forward to Dino's Get Down. Like, I've read about it since from the first one, and it's like, I was going to go. My truck was ready, and I just had to go to the drag strip one more time. And then it pushed a head gasket, and it torched the block, and it did all this damage. And so I pulled the motor out of my truck in September, thinking I could make it to the Get Down. And then my wife and I decided to renovate our upstairs of our house, the two of us. So she and I spent 6 months doing that. And I just got my engine back in my truck 2 weeks ago. So, life happens. And I had a baby in between there. So I've been a little bit, so I feel like I at least got the truck running. I'm not going to go blow it up, hopefully, anytime soon, but I'm not one to just take a little bit. I got to see how far I can go with things.
So do you think you'll make it to the Get Down this year?
Oh, for sure. It's already on the calendar.
Okay,
I mean, I've got some travel for work the month ahead of that, but outside of that, no, man, we're looking forward to it. I am. And I mean, just to put names to faces, it seems to be that's the camaraderie. It's not a judged show. I didn't build this truck to get judged. I didn't do it to enter into shows. I literally built this truck to drive the shit out of, do burnouts in, haul ass in. My wife doesn't necessarily like riding in it because it's kind of terrifying, to be honest. I mean, that thing makes power, like really good power. And it's like, I don't feel like that's going to be her jam. So I'm going to have to put some car seats in that and slow down a little bit.
Well, like you said, you might build another one. You could make one that's maybe more her jam.
I think, I've got her a 1965 International Scout that outside, and that's honestly one of the most fun things we own. It's got a little removable hardtop. It's a truck, but 60 horsepower, 45 miles an hour on it, but I mean, it's going to get an LS swap.
No, you live in Colorado, so I mean, having a Scout's pretty cool. You should bring her. I highly recommend you bring her, whether or not you bring your daughter. But Dino's Get Down is a family affair.
They'll love it.
Oh, you'll enjoy it, and the weather's great. You know, for a guy going from Colorado to Phoenix. Tell us more about your truck and that journey and finding it, building it, and going with GSI, going with the different Willwoods and the race lines and your team and how you guys, because you're a mechanic by day, or you work at a diesel shop?
No, we I do sales for our business. We own a Cummins dealership here in Denver. So we work on big semi trucks called Marini Diesel, and so that's why it's got Marini on the side of my truck. Everybody always asks me if it's got a diesel. Now it's got an LS. But so I had an English degree. I went and worked for a motorcycle magazine. I ended up with a pregnant girlfriend back here in Denver, and I lived in Atlanta. So I moved back here with her, and it just opened a can of worms, and I ended up doing sales for a Kenworth dealer. And we ended up buying a business here in Denver that we've got 22 mechanics, a couple $1 million worth of Cummins parts, and we basically do big engine work, like semi-truck work. Mm-hmm. So we rebuild engines. That's our forte, and that seems to pay the bills okay. And then in the meantime, I ran across a guy, and he had this cool picture of an old, like it might have been a 71, 72, sitting there lowered, but it was a 25-year-old picture. And I was like, man, I ought to get me another. I need a project. I need to build a car. I need to build a truck, whatever. And he's like, well, I got a buddy that could build you a truck. I went to the bank and got $20,000. It was like, build me a truck. And apparently Bud Light was what he built me. He built a lot of Bud Light cans in the trash can when I finally pulled my
I've never heard that. That's pretty good. I like that.
That is what he built me, a $20,000 pile of Bud Light cans. So I pulled that out, and a friend of mine's a high-end hot rod builder here in Denver, and we've drag raced together for years. He's a good buddy, and he was like, you bring me that truck, I'll build you what you want. So literally took him a cab. We took it to the blaster, got it done, and then I think my first call, I ordered race lines through Pro Performance, through Travis.
Yeah, good dude.
Before I even started building the truck, I wanted those wheels. I wanted those race lines. I liked the old, like how they look like a sandcast Halibran type wheel. And I had those made, and I didn't have anything else. It was like a bare frame and those wheels. But man, I was a pretty happy little camper. So then they got involved, and the boys, we ordered GSI. That was kind of, I think, about the time GSI really started doing suspension stuff. Mm-hmm. Because they weren't really a household name at the time, from what I can tell. I mean, back then, I just got a credit card out and paid him and talked to Scott. I've never met Scott. Like, I'm looking forward to doing that. But yeah, I just bought all the suspension stuff I could from him, and then
you're front half, back half, right? It's not a full
front half, back half.
Okay.
Hindsight, if I were going to do this again for the younger generation or somebody building a truck, if I were going to do it again, I think that's one of the things I learned the hard way. That looking at a Porterbuilt complete chassis, a Roadster shop chassis, it scared me because of the number. Mm-hmm. Like 10, 12, 15, 25 grand. That's a pretty big nut to cover when you're really looking at this. And I think in hindsight, I would have done that. I would have gone complete roller, just because by the time I paid the labor to the hot rod shop to have them cut mine apart, get everything drilled, get everything welded, I think I would have been money ahead. And I mean, I think that's one of those learning curves that you have to learn is, if you like how something looks, wait a couple more months, wait a year, save your money and buy what you want, and buy it. It will save you money in the long run. I mean, the way GSI is cranking out full chassis now, it's crazy to me. I mean, I watch it on Instagram, I watch it everywhere, and it's like, for whatever that costs, you would probably be money ahead if you're not doing the work. I didn't have the time. I paid the hot rod shop. I can weld, I can cut. It was a time versus money thing for me. Is, you know, I wanted it done because I needed this drug done. I needed this drug to keep going, and then did the suspension. Then we ended up with Willwoods because that's what the hot rod shop recommended. I got a Boyd's tank in there. Then I went with an Aeromotive in-tank twin pumps because I knew I wanted to turbo this thing. And I mean, everything from like slosh tubs. Like, I don't have those painted yet. My truck's not complete. It's not painted. It's not pretty. It's just low and it's fast and it looks pretty cool in bare metal. But I mean, there's been a lot of good people that I've also dealt with. I mean, I haven't got screwed by anybody. I did my research. I watched the magazines. I read the C10 buyer's guide. Like, a lot of that influence in my truck came from all those places. And it's been, the access to information now is so readily available and easy. It's a no-brainer. You can basically build a truck from all these parts manufacturers and not have to get too dirty doing it.
Yeah, and the age-old question is always going to come back to that same thing. You just said it. It's time versus money. And if you want the journey and you want to blow rivets out all day long, then front half, back half, and you want to save, $2, $3, $4 grand. But if you want to save time and you have a little extra money, or you can go, pick up some time at work or whatever you can do, it's the cart before the horse, or the chicken before the egg. That's why we just did the whole suspension series. It's got to be just the biggest question. What do I do? Should I LS it? Should I not? Should I go full chassis? Should I not? And like you said, you're gonna once you get bit, you've got it. Now you probably, in your next truck, you'll probably do a full roller.
Yep, and I will. And I don't know if I'd do a bagged truck again, if I'd do a static truck. I mean, I've got a couple of buddies here now building square bodies around Denver. I mean, it's so Hank. There was a truck in Arizona called Hank. I think the Porterbuilt guys built it.
Oh yeah.
I took one of my good friends for a ride in my C10 right after I finished it, and he's the one that bought that thing. He bought it 3 weeks later. He's like, I gotta go buy a truck. And I was like, well, dude, let me tell you, for whatever they're charging you, you can't build that truck. Yeah. I mean, it's all full Porterbuilt. Badass, awesome suspension, AccuAir, everything. Like, everything is good on that truck. And I was like, let me just tell you, you'll be money ahead if you just buy that truck for whatever the asking price is. You're money ahead. So super happy. I drove it around with him last weekend, and we had lunch today, and he's super happy. Like, Adam loves that truck and now he wants to supercharge it. So that's the next project.
So what do you have you taken them both out? Have you taken the DeLorean out and Great Scott C10?
No, I haven't, because the DeLorean's a stick car. I've let my wife drive the C10 right when we built it, but we haven't. I just never, there's never an option. It was up until 3 months ago, it was just three of us. We always hopped in the C10 because DeLorean's a 2-seater and her little Scout is a 4-seater, but it doesn't have a roll cage. So you drive a topless truck around. You don't really, I'd feel bad if I got in an accident with my daughter in there. So
sure. Well, I just wonder kind of when you what kind of looks you get. Like, you're driving your DeLorean around, and people, I assume, are giving you, thumbs up, and then you drive your C10 and they're like, "Are you kidding me? Look at this guy." He has all the cool shit in town.
The DeLorean more than the C10. I know it's crazy, but
no, that's kind of what I was wondering.
100%. I mean, they literally will drive a foot from my bumper because my license plate says 1PT21GW, like 1.21 gigawatts. Yeah. I thought it was funny 20 years ago. And so I've had personalized plates on the DeLorean for 20 years. Well, I got I don't even know what the C10 is. It's Great Scott, basically. Yeah. So my idea is I was going to buy a bagged trailer or just a low trailer, pull the truck, put the DeLorean on the back, and it'd be Great Scott 1.21 gigawatts because I'm just that big of a dork.
Oh my God. You've got if you think about it, some people have 5, 10, 15 fleets, and you've got two, in Golden, which, like you said, 40,000 people. You can't lose, man. You go to Cars and Coffee up there, and you almost have to decide, like, what the hell am I going to drive today? It's like, well, if everybody wants to go, I'm taking the C10. If it's just me and Mama, we're taking the DeLorean.
She likes her little Scout, and I also have a 1936 Ford 3-window coupe that I found in a barn last year, and the car is so nice, we don't drive it. Like, it's got 4,000 miles since 1970. I mean, it is an original car. Like, it drove off the lot. It's that nice. I found it. Took me 5 years to buy it from this old lady. Bought the car last year, and we don't hardly drive it because it's too nice. The C10, I don't worry where I park it. I don't worry about door dings. It's bare metal. The DeLorean we can fix. I mean, we can grain stainless, that type thing. But yeah, this little 36 Ford's so nice, I don't even want to drive it. So it's kind of like, well, maybe we should sell that thing. And I don't know.
You just blew my mind. So you have the DeLorean, which that's just rad, right? 80s rad.
Yeah.
You have a 67 C10 small back window, pushing potentially 800 soon horsepower. Yep. And then you blow my mind. I'm not a Ford guy. A 36 Ford is probably, if not one of the most sexiest cars ever built. It's such a, for the audience,
the holy grail.
If you want to see what a sexy car is.
I sent a picture to Jesse J, hot rod builder Jesse James.
Mm-hmm.
I sent him a picture of it. He goes, I want that. I said, bro, it's not for sale. My mom just bought it. He's like, I don't care. Call me. I'm like, no, you're not buying my car. I just found it in the barn. But I mean, it's that cool. Like that old car is. My dad's got a bunch. There's a 65 bet sitting around here doing nothing, like that needs restored. But now that I've built a truck to that caliber, you can't build a 65 vet for under $100,000. I mean, you can't even begin to. And it's like, man, I don't think my wife's going to be okay if I do that. So I should probably just hold off on that one.
Dude, you're rad, man. C10, DeLorean, a Scout, and a freaking 36 Ford. I mean, you really, I don't know what, I don't know what's left, but you've got some really killer, and the variety is amazing.
I've had a pretty good run.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I'm a very blessed human being.
You're well represented. You got the International, you got the Ford, you got the C10, and then you got the DeLorean.
I can't wear Dino's shirt. I can't wear his Chevy only because that'd be, well, honestly, I can't even pull a DeLorean with it. Come on, bro.
You ought to put that, since you're a Cummins guy, you ought to put that little 4B, no, not the 4BT, it's the new crate in that Scout.
There's $8,000, $9,000 for the motor. My cost.
Yeah. Yeah, they're not cheap, but so is an LS3. I mean, so you put that little, I know it's like 180 horsepower, but the thing's getting like 40 miles a gallon.
Yep. We talked about it, and I've actually talked to Cummins about doing that in the Scout. We think that'd be a pretty cool, 9Gs is a pretty good start for an LS swap in a Scout.
Yeah, but you have that little Cummins in there and that Scout. Boy, oh boy, man.
It's so cute.
40 miles, that's cute.
Well, I can always get my hands on a 4BT, like a small 4-cylinder Cummins, out of like a bread van or something like that. We could build one. It's just time and money. I'd like to finish out the C10, like put a stereo in it, put air conditioning in it, bedline it, just things that that drive me crazy about it now. I mean, it's no air conditioning and it is hot. Like that truck has no air whatsoever. I would like to, at least for my passengers' sake, get that so we can come to Arizona and not die.
Well, if you come at the get down, you're doing pretty good. Have you heard one of those little crates? Because a 4BT that's a rock tumbler. I mean, that's
Yep. And the new ones are not. Yeah, they're nice. Like, and there's a company in Iowa that's building that particular Cummins, that new little Cummins, in a refurbished Scout, mid-60s Scout, but they're 110 Gs. $110,000 for an International Scout. Nice, badass. Man, I can't justify that.
Yeah.
I'm out. We're just going to drive our little $4,000 barn find and I don't know. It needs a motor more than the Time Machine does, but the Time Machines, I mean, it's so underpowered. It's sad.
So I've got a Cummins guy here. What, and obviously you're dealing with the big rigs and big trucks and, big. When you look at passenger Cummins, I've owned a 12 valve. I have a 12 valve.
Yep.
It's supposed to go in my tow truck if I ever get to that. Are you a 12 valve guy, a 24 valve? I've got a Cummins guy, I've got to ask you, what's the best Cummins to put in an old truck?
The mechanical stuff.
Okay. So 12 valves.
I mean, yeah. So my dad's got a first gen Dodge 1-ton Duke. No, I think it's a 3/4 ton sitting around in my backyard somewhere. I've got a couple acres. He likes to hide it back here, but it's the first gen Dodge diesel. And I've had people, and he wanted like $7,000 for it. My dad's like, I'll take $7,000. I have guys that want to just buy it for the motor because there's no electronics. There's nothing wrong with it. Like, I'm a big fan of keeping it simple. I mean, if you can find the older Cummins 12 valve stuff, 2000, 2001, like they make good power. Those guys that drag race them make a ton of horsepower with them. Go that route. Keep it simple.
Okay.
And if you need parts, I'm your guy. We own a dealership, so it's fine. You need Cummins parts pricing. Any of the C10 guys, if they want to DM me or any of that, like you can't buy it cheaper than I do.
Sure.
So
yeah.
If anybody needs help, I mean, I'll sell them straight to them, whatever you guys want to do.
Well, and I've always been told, like, so mine's a 95. I had for the tow truck, the 96 that I owned, a P-pump,
Yep.
obviously, the thing, the thing, I sold at 150,000 miles, and it's just getting broke in. The tranny just sucked behind it. When I would pull, and if you run an NV 4500, use something where they can handle that power. And now, that's 20 plus years ago. Now, these guys build these trannies that are just bomb-proof.
So ATS, you ever heard of ATS, Diesel Performance? I don't know anything. They're right by my house. And those dudes crank out like $7,000 and $8,000 trannies for these things. I'm like, what? It's all built in internals, all this, and I'm like, dude, $8,000. But then you look at, hey, I probably had $150,000 in a motorcycle. So who am I to judge?
Yeah, totally right. And somebody's spending $150,000 on a Scout somewhere. So what's next on the truck?
To each his own.
You got to put some vintage air in that thing. You got to change up the motor. What are you looking at to do next on the Great Scott C10?
Vintage air. So the boys that built my truck at Precision, they're a vintage air dealer, and I was looking at Resto Mod and I was looking at vintage air. The boys get better pricing on that, and they were willing to help me out with that. I'm gonna bedline that thing because it's still a truck. I go use it for work. I go deliver parts in my lowrider.
No way.
All the time.
Really?
Last week. Yeah, up in Boulder and ripped around in it. And I put 200 miles on it last week just delivering parts because why not? Like, it's a company vehicle. That's why it's got our company name on the side. People
Plus it's
love
fun.
it.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude.
And it's got all the AccuAir, like the newest AccuAir stuff in, so everything's auto leveling, and that's been great. AccuAir, by the way, they helped me out with a bunch of like little problems I was having with my stuff, and dude, those dudes stepped up, not a question. Reno was cool. He was in contact with every man. I can't say enough nice things about that guy. Like, good business, did good business. I had one of the new CVT tanks, like the very first run, and when I pulled the motor out of my truck, and I don't know if this goes any further, but it freaked out and dumped all the air out of the bags, like just freaked out of nowhere. Well, send the serial number to Reno or to their tech department. Reno was watching this. He calls me and he's like, hey man, I need to know the serial number on top of the tank, and gave him the serial number. It was like, we're the first 200 made. And he's like, all right, I'll have you a new tank tomorrow. It'll be overnighted tomorrow. I was like, what? He goes, I need that one back. So I'm going to send you an RMA and just send it back to me. And that's it. And dude, just the professionalism of that, I was like, I will always spend my money with him.
Well, and just like forward. You're a parts guy. I mean, so that's what's cool. Whether it's AccuAir, whether it's another company within the community, it's like when you are dealing with these people, Pro Performance, AccuAir, Dakota Digital, all these people that we vet out. It's like, this is a parts guy saying these are professional companies.
Yep, and everybody I've dealt with has been good. Honestly, I don't have nobody's tried to screw me on anything. Nobody's tried to backdoor me on anything. Like, I've been really impressed, but I've also been very selective in doing my research on who stuffs on a lot of these trucks. You got these $100,000 and $200,000 builds. Who are they spending their money with? Because obviously there's a reason. You see, I mean, as I've come to, a lot of chopping block stuff, like Dino using those guys. And I didn't know that was an option back then.
Yeah.
I didn't know when I started. I knew Porterbuilt because that's what everybody was running. And then I hear about this little company, GSI, and I was like, I'm going to give these guys a shot. I don't know them. But they seem to have pretty nice welds. Their stuff seems to be quality. I don't hear anybody bad-mouthing them. And so it was like, I took the chance. We did that. But I think a lot of it is just doing your research. Like, the internet is a good and very bad thing quickly for a lot of people and a lot of businesses. And you can really redo your research. Like, I've already heard the people I don't want to do business with in this business, on this end of things. And it's like, I'm just not going to.
And like
There's
you
too
said,
many good people.
you don't have to sweat it either, because you're like, hey, I've heard who I don't want to do business with, but I know who I'm doing business with, and I really enjoy that. So I think that's what another thing that comes back to the community. It's like, listen, for the audience, you're in the community. We're going to do the best we can to take care of you. And the community is fun. And the community, the trucks bring us together, but we stay for the beer, we stay for the barbecue, we stay for the camaraderie. But then we have to remember there's companies out there that are so awesome, and we're so lucky because whether it's an International Scout or an 81 DeLorean, we have so many parts and so many now they're doing it because they want to stay in business, and C10s are hot, and we understand that part of it. But you could have a company because C10s are hot and still be shitty. These companies are doing what they can to take care of people, and that's to be commended. So that's my soapbox.
Yep, and it shows. Like, and I can tell. I mean, even from reading the magazines 6-8 years ago, I knew who the hitters were, and I knew who the good people were that were manufacturing good parts. Like, and the more I've spent, I use AccuWear because I hadn't used them before. I didn't know these dudes from anybody, but they were on the forefront of the technology into things, and it was like, well, then I'm gonna go that route. I want to try that. I wanted to do something a little bit different. I wanted to stay on ahead of it. But the problem is everything gets outdated as fast as it gets indated. I mean, all the new technology is going to be 3 years old, and it's going to be old technology. So you might as well enjoy it. But I mean, my CVT tank, when I put that thing in, and it was like 400 decibels quieter than the old stuff in there, I was like, oh my God, I can hear my wife in the cab of the truck. Like, that's mind blowing to me. The fact you put an air compressor inside of a tank with a desiccant cartridge and an air dryer, like, kudos. Good for you for moving the sport forward, because this is just a hobby for all of us. Unless you're selling parts, this is a hobby for me. But I enjoy driving my truck now more because of that, like air conditioning. I'm going to enjoy my truck even more when I have to have the damn windows down at all every single moment of the day. I mean,
then you really won't hear that CVT.
Your wife.
Yeah, you'd be like, "What'd you say, babe? I can't hear the CVT because I got the windows up because I'm enjoying this this vintage air." So it kind of works out.
Fresh air conditioning.
The guy from Colorado saying he's going to be hot. I'm going to get your ass down here. It's like 115 today.
What?
Yeah, it's hot.
So here, put this in perspective. We haven't seen 90 yet. It's the coldest start to Colorado history since like 1938. It hasn't been over 85 degrees here. It's raining almost every single day.
Well, that's not good for a bare metal guy, I tell you that.
No, bud, I had to put oil on it, literally.
So what do you do when it gets wet? What do you just like WD-40 it? What do you do?
Nope, you get Scotch-Brite out. And you sand down. Well, that's what I do. So my truck's super shiny. Like in those pictures when we shot them up at Red Rocks, which is for the GSI calendar.
Mm-hmm.
That's Red Rocks Amphitheater. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
I've heard of it because of your pictures. Looks like Sedona,
one of the most famous amphitheaters in the world, and it's 10 minutes from my house. So that's where let's go shoot at Red Rocks. But it's bare metal and it's super, super shiny because I don't put anything on it. If you want to keep it from rusting, you put oil on it, basically. It's called Gibbs oil. And you oil the entire truck. Like, it basically puts a coating over it so you can drive it in the rain and it won't immediately rust. But my truck, as bare metal as it sits, as soon as it rains, it instantly rusts. Like, instantly. So get out my Scotch-Brite pad and I breathe on it and I sand it out again. And that's it.
How long does that take?
Green.
Like, when you get a little rain and somebody's going to, in perspective of waxing their truck, cutting, buffing, and waxing their truck, you're like, okay, I've got a 3-hour deal here. I'm going to go, hey, babe, I'm going to go oil the truck.
I can sand the truck in probably 2 hours just with Scotch-Brite.
And then just gib it out and put some gibs on a rag and just lay it down.
And you're done. Yep, but it changes the color of the truck.
So
the truck becomes dark. It's not shiny. Like the GSI catalog pictures, those are super shiny. That is nothing on it.
No oil.
I literally sanded that down to bare metal.
Wow.
And now it just changes the angles, it changes the colors. But in fact, Scott from GSI called me or sent me a DM, and he was like, hey man, I really want to do a bare metal truck. How do you do that? Well, kind of an old hot rodder, but so he just did. I think he just did a square body in bare metal.
He's got a square body. I don't know if it's bare metal, but I'll have to talk to him. I don't know. That's crazy.
I think he wants to. It's a pain in the ass, honestly, but it looks cool and it's different. And someday I'll have $25,000 and I'll go paint it. I mean,
what color do you think you'll paint it? Or do you really think you will? I mean, it's got such a. It really adds to the name. It adds to the Great Scott C10 because it's like the DeLorean morphed into it.
Yeah, but you can't clear coat it. So you clear coat it and you get a chip on the paint up front. Water gets under the chip. There's nothing to keep it from rusting now.
Sure.
There's nothing from it to moving underneath the metals. So that's why I didn't clear coat it. So this Gibbs is as good as it's going to get. I just am going to try not to drive it in a ton of rain. I mean, that's God's honest truth why I haven't gone to a lot of events yet.
Yeah, you need to move to Arizona, bro. We just don't get any rain, so you'd be good to go.
Right. And I mean, Denver, this is the most rain we've had in years, but it's like, oh, this is not good for driving a bare metal C10.
How about moisture in the shop or in the garage? Like just so, let's say you close the door, you get any moisture? No, you're good.
None.
You got you're like sucking air out of there all the time.
None in winter. I mean, we just don't have humidity. We're like you guys. It's just 20 degrees cooler here.
Or 40. That's pretty crazy.
or 50 if you're playing your cards.
Oh, my God. Well, good, dude. You are you're a stud, man. I mean, to think of not only just your cars and your selection of cars, from the diesel shop to your around motors to 255 miles an hour to laying down not once, not twice, 3 times a lady, dude. That's I look forward to meeting you, shaking your hand, drinking a beer, and I'm telling you, you got to come down to the Get Down. It's fun.
I've already got it on my calendar.
Make it happen.
I'll go to the drag strip ahead of time.
Well, and so I don't know if I can say this yet, but let's just say that I'm going to say this, and I hope I don't get in trouble for this, but where the show's going to be at this year is at the drag strip.
Oh dear.
Oh yeah. I don't know that there's really going to be the drag strip, but it's going to change venues. I hope that I might have to edit this out. I'll have to talk to the boss himself, the big cat, but he's working on a different location. And I don't know if you've been to Firebird. I assume you have, but Firebird Raceway, that's to be the new venue for the 9th annual Dino's Big Cat Chevy Only Get Down.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so
how many trucks were there last year? Like, how did you guys do? I mean, how many did that one bring in?
Over 650. Big Surf. It's a kind of a aquatics little park. It's a fun place, but over 650, and it's going to just keep getting bigger. Let me just tell you this, Korry. The Get Down will not disappoint. In life, there's lots of disappointments. The Get Down, we work hard. Dino, his staff, Chevy Only Krista, his kids, his family. It's not a letdown. It's a free show. It's a non-judge show.
I know, which is crazy. I even hit him up like 8 months ago and go, do you want us to pitch in? I, as a person watching from the outside, would pitch in for like the pizzas, the feeding of everybody.
Yeah,
why don't we do a GoFundMe or something to that effect where people can pitch in throughout the year to pay for the food? Like, I mean, that's a huge financial burden taken off his plate. But he was like, nope, we got this.
Yeah, he just doesn't want anybody to have to pay. Another cool thing about where, just for you, this is like meant for you. So the new location is Firebird. The closest C10 aftermarket shop is GSI. It's like right there. Like,
really?
I don't think I'm going to say that Firebird and GSI, maybe 3 miles apart.
Oh, God, that's it.
Yeah. So last I heard, he's waiting on hearing about the response for the audience and the nation and the Get Down. He's waiting on that. So I think it's good, and I'm going to have to.
What's your take on it?
Oh, so Super Chevy used to be there. It's a phenomenal place. The only thing that's different is that where he had it first at the house, second at the shop, then at Big Surf. Those are more central. When you go to the raceway and you think about like the Denver Raceway, the reason why I know where it's at is because it's right off the freeway. So you're not right in town. So those raceways were built, back in the day when they weren't in town. Well,
out of town.
Yeah.
Be quiet.
So the raceway is it's just not right in town. It's a little bit out of town, but it's right off the 10.
Kill any of the vibe?
I don't think so, because it's a great location. It's right off the 10. Hotels plentiful. There's gaming and there's a lot to do. So, and it's the get down, and it doesn't need to be about all the extra stuff. It just needs to be about the get down and the camaraderie and the people, and it's going to be awesome. So,
I can't wait.
Yeah,
I can't wait to meet the personalities,
like
the Delmos and the Dinos and
yeah.
the Sams. Like, I mean, you read about them, you hear about them, you see them, but you don't know how you're going to interact. You don't know what kind of people. I'm pretty easy to get along with. Like, I enjoy people like-minded.
Sure.
Like the people like you, the people like them, that build, that do, that not the sayers, but the doers. I'm looking forward to that end of things, to actually put a face to a name and shake hands. Like that's why Dino's deal looks fun to me, because it looks like a big family party.
You know who comes out to the get down, and I don't know that he's really skipped, so I assume he'll continue to come, and who if he listens, he's been a guest on my show. I love this dude, but is Boris from Street Machinery. He's such he comes out, so you get to meet him and Jerome, which is his sidekick, which you want to talk about, the Nutty Professor. But they come out, and it's just it's a really good time. I think what makes the C10 community really unique and a special thing, and in our lifetime we need to recognize this, is just we have all the full gamut from the Big Cat and the Delmos and the Sams. And then you go all the way down to Boris, and it's like all these dudes hanging out, having a really good time. And I'm thankful that Dino has it. I'm thankful that it's right here. And I'm telling you, man, just come down, have fun, bring your family, enjoy the weather, and
that's
it's
the
a good
one
time.
Vacation I've got planned for the year. So you're good.
Good. Well, I'm going to take you out. For the audience, you can check out GR8 SCOT, so Great Scott C10 on Instagram. That's going to be more of the build. You can check out Korry Hogan. It's just straight up, it's K and it's a double R, so Korry Hogan, Hoagan, like Hogan's Heroes, which half my audience probably doesn't even know what that is. What else? How else do they?
Hulk Hogan.
Yeah. There you go, Hulk Hogan. How else do they get a hold of you, or if they need to buy diesel parts?
You can Google my name's spelled really unique, Korryhogan. You put that in, you can find me. I mean, I make a great YouTube star, that's for sure. And I'm not on YouTube. I'm just saying I've made a great highlight reel of my racing career. So now we'll just do it with some C10s instead.
Good. I hope you do race them. I hope, I hope you get into the autocross. I hope that's the next vice for you, because that's something that I would love to do. I just really don't have the money or the time. But I think if you, that might be the next vice for you.
If I get bit by that bug, Ronnie, yes, I'm one of those people. Like, I don't tend to do things half-assed. Let's say that.
Well, I think you could sell the 36 to Jesse James. You could probably fund your autocross career for a few years just off that car. Especially because you're the second owner or the third owner of that thing.
Yeah, I do like cars now. Oh, boy.
Yeah, you're in trouble.
My wife, I'm glad she's not hearing this.
All right, you guys can check him out, Korry Hogan or Great Scott C10. I assume that you've seen it. I know I posted it up. C10, Vatos, Crew, Era, all the C10 guys are loving this thing, and it's the GSI calendar. It made the cut. Wish you nothing but the best, and I'm telling you, whatever it is, I think it's like 5 months from now. It's probably almost exactly 5 months from now is the get down. So I look forward to meeting you, brother.
You too. I'll see you there, bud.
Thanks for your time, man.
Of course. Thanks for having me on.